Hello, everyone, and welcome to another very special episode. She Scores Bangers is teaming up with the Northern Super League over the next few weeks to bring you exclusive interviews with players and others that are gearing up for their inaugural season, set to kick off on April 16th. The NSL, founded by former Canada International Diana Matheson, is Canada's first ever professional women's soccer league, with 6 clubs based in Halifax, Calgary, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. You can catch the action on CBC, TSN, and other online streaming platforms. Today's guest is a dynamic forward that has built a reputation for her devastating finishing. Catching the eyes of scouts all across the country, she had a stellar time at the University of Memphis before heading to Iceland to sign her first professional contract before heading over to Sweden and making some waves with Vitsvo. She's represented Canada across all youth levels and was nominated for Canada Soccer Young Player of the Year award in 2020. Ready to find the net for the Montreal Roses, it's none other than Tanya Boychuk. Tanya, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing really well. Yeah, everything's going well with me.
Good. I hope you're getting some good rest before preseason starts. Is that that's the plan as of right now?
Kind of just in their off season, so I'm just lifting lots and running, not touching the ball as much, just to prep for the big season coming up because I know it's going to be a lot for the next couple months.
Getting ready for those beep tests for now, hopefully.
Yeah,
Kind of.
for sure. Oh, I'll be ready.
Tanya, I feel like we've heard probably too many different pronunciations of your name. So would you be so kind to tell us how it's properly pronounced so that when fans are chanting it in the stadium, they're saying it properly and correctly?
My name's Tanya Boychuk. Um, People kind of call me whatever, Tanya or Tanya, but it's kind of right in the middle. My dad, when he tries to tell people how to say it, it's T-A-H, so Tanya, and then Boychuk.
Perfectly, perfectly put together. What's the weirdest pronunciation you've heard of it?
Um, I don't know. It's more so the spelling. The spelling can get crazy with an O, A, U, like all together, but I get a lot of Tanyas, but it's
Mhm.
more in the middle.
You're switching it up a little bit, which is how we
Yeah,
like it.
exactly.
Tanya, I have to ask of how did you start playing soccer and kind of your childhood growing up in Edmonton? Because I know soccer and diving were intertwined. So I'd love to hear how you started getting into both sports together.
I started playing soccer when I was 3, and my brother was 5 years old. I have a brother that's 2 years older than me, and I played on the same team as him. My parents put me in, and I think you have to be like 4 years old to be in it, but
Mm.
so they just said I was 4, so it would be easier to drive me and him to practice together. And I was 3, and it was me and all other little boys as well playing. I was the only girl, and I was 2 years younger than everyone there, and it was for the Timbits. I don't know if you guys have that, but yeah, so for the little Timbits group, and it was awesome. There's actually a little photo with just me and then all the boys around me in it. It's great. But so I started playing soccer for the Timbits. And then throughout my childhood, I just kept playing for like just community teams. And then I started playing club probably when I was 8 for Extreme, so just this little club team near my house. And at that same time, I was in this summer camp, and it's called Swim Gym in Edmonton at the Edmonton Kinsman Sports Center.
Mm.
And so the camp is where you do swimming, gymnastics, and diving, all 3 of those. And it's like I want to say 1 or 2 week camp. And so we just signed up to do like the swimming and gymnastics. Nobody really knows what diving is. And they're like, sure, whatever. She can do the diving part too. And after the 2 week camp, like the head coach kind of scouted me out from the diving. And he was like you can do a somersault, you can do a flip, like you should join diving. You would be a really good diver. So of course I joined it, and that's how I got into diving. It's super niche, so a lot of people are super like interested how I got into it and how I found the sport. But yeah, so it's from this summer camp.
So you started balancing both soccer and diving all at the same time.
Yes, and that was thanks to my parents because they drove me everywhere. I was going to school, then going to diving, and then going to soccer in the evening, and it kind of got really crazy when I was in like junior high and high school. And before I had my license, I went to a sports school. So it's called Vimy Ridge Academy, and where I went to school in the morning and then diving in the afternoon from 12:30 until 3:30. And then I would go to soccer, and then I would go to my club soccer team because we had that like RPC Rex program, the National Development Program, and then I would go to my club team after. So I was training from like 12:30 until 7:30, and I was just eating in the car, doing my homework in the car, changing in the car. It was crazy, but my parents drove me everywhere. So I mean, I'm very thankful for them.
Sounds like a lot of miles on their cars, driving you left
Lots.
and right. 2015 approached actually, and that was where the Junior Pan American Games. Tell me a little bit about your experience there, because I know we're here to talk about soccer, but I feel like you did some pretty wonderful things over there with diving.
Yeah, so that year, so to get to the Pan American Games, you have to get first place at the national championships for diving. And so that year I was actually, it's kind of crazy. I was debating to quit diving, and I was like, "Hey, this is going to be my last nationals." Like since I was 8 to 15, I was like, I've just had enough. Like I've done a lot, and like diving is really stressful. And I was like, I just want to focus on one thing at a time, just soccer, and then possibly go to university for soccer. And I was like, this is gonna be my last nationals. And then I go to nationals and I win one or two events, or I get first in one event, and then another event I get second place, and I qualify for the Pan American Games. And I'm like, are you serious? I was planning to be done, and now I have to dive for like 2 more months and go to these Pan Am Games. And I was like, okay, you know what? This is something really cool and to be grateful for. Like, so I decided to keep going, and I went to the Junior Pan American Games that summer, I think it was, and I also medaled in that. I went for 1 meter and then 3 meter synchro, so like with a partner,
Mm.
and I got bronze place, and it was awesome, awesome experience, like very, very cool, and yeah, very grateful for that.
Sounds like you were a natural when it came to jumping in the water.
Yeah, it was fun. It was lots of fun, and the cross training with that, like, it was great for soccer and for diving because it's not like I'm doing more running when I'm going to diving. Like I didn't feel tired going from diving to soccer because it's two different motions using two like a bunch of different muscles. Like you're not using the same muscles, so it helped me for both sports for sure.
Mhm. And 2015 was also quite a historic year here for Canada because we hosted the Women's World Cup. Any memories from coming to those games? Because I know some of them took place in Edmonton.
Yeah, actually. So I think the opening game was in Edmonton.
Hmm.
And it was around my birthday, so it was in June, I remember. And I was at that opening game, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they won. It was 1-0.
Hmm.
And I remember I it was like at the end of the game. Um it was at the end of the game, and I was walking. I think like my parents were like, "Hey, let's go, like let's beat the crowd." It was 0-0 at this time, and they're like, "Let's beat the crowd, let's get in the car and like let's head out." And so like we're getting up out of our seats in like the 90th minute, like the game's pretty much over.
Mm.
Um we're getting up and like we're walking, and then I'm like looking between like the windows that like you can see as you're like going around the stadium, and then the crowd just goes crazy. It was the 92nd minute, and Christine Sinclair scored on a
Yeah.
penalty kick, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm here for this. Like it was wild. It was a crazy moment to be a part of.
So what happened between, kind of having to manage both diving and soccer and then basically taking an ultimate decision of being like, I want to pursue soccer, and eventually heading over to University of Memphis to play soccer? Like, what was that process like? And I guess the decision of, quitting something that you were meddling on, basically.
Yeah. So it was my in grade 11, I had the opportunity for the following year. So for my grade 12 year of high school, I had the opportunity to go play for the Vancouver Whitecaps. And up until grade 11, I was still diving. So I was 17 and I was still diving and on the junior national team. And I was still really liking it. And so I had the opportunity to go to the Whitecaps. And like at that point, I was like, if I go, then like that's when I'm done diving. I close that chapter and now I'm like opening a new chapter. And that's when I was involved with the junior national team for soccer. And I was just like, you know what, like this might be the best thing for me to move there, being like the national hub around all the coaches and everything. And then, yeah, I just was more open minded to then like close that one door and open it to go for university for soccer. And I just felt at peace. Like diving's a really, really hard sport mentally and physically.
Mm.
And it's kind of funny, but like I was just ready to be a little bit more like relaxed and like take soccer as like not the easy way out, but definitely the easier sport mentally for both of them. And it just I felt a lot of relief doing that. So yeah, so I went to Vancouver, and that was awesome, great experience, especially moving away right before moving so far from home to Memphis. It was a perfect stepping stone for me.
How was your experience at Memphis? Because it seemed during that time is when you really got busy kind of with the youth national teams, like you mentioned, back in 2019 when Canada had a U18, you got experience with that. You obviously did the CONCACAF U20 championship in 2020. Like it looked like it was a very busy time during university. Understandably, there was COVID, which probably made it a little bit more just kind of odd and weird. But what was that experience like? Kind of like you mentioned, moving far away from home and getting these opportunities for both university, collegiate, and international.
hmm I had a great experience at the University of Memphis. I was there for 5 years. So at the University of Memphis, it's kind of you get everything. Some people love it, some people don't have the best experience, but I had an amazing experience. I love the coaching staff. We got along really well. The girls that they just seem to recruit the best personalities and the best girls that like that's what makes it like not necessarily well the Memphis as a city is really neat as well, but um being there for like I wouldn't change anything. I loved it. They were super supportive with the national team and letting me go for tournaments and everything. And yeah, it was a really good experience. I also loved the heat. It was a big change from coming to Edmonton to going there. It was really nice.
Well, that's a bold statement from somebody who grew up in Edmonton, like you mentioned, and is going to be living in Montreal for now, which does get a little chilly in the winter. So I'm glad you got to enjoy some summer and in heat in the summer with Memphis. You then
Yeah.
declare for the 2023 NWSL draft. Doesn't necessarily go your way, and I think that draft was a bit tough. We only got one Canadian to go out of Sydney Collins. Um, how was it navigating that process of right? Like I'm on this really good momentum of soccer, the draft didn't really go my way. What was the process of looking for a professional contract, sorry, and navigating life post collegiate soccer?
hmm So, as I mentioned, I did 5 years at University of Memphis, but before my fifth year in the spring, I got called to the national team, like the full national team. I went in with the camp with them, and I got back. And 2 weeks after I got back, I was training with the University of Memphis. This was in the spring season, and I had one more year after this there to kind of like this was my super season. Like I was this was like my peak. I was super excited, and I came back 2 weeks after and I tore my ACL, unfortunately. So I spent that full fifth year just doing my rehab. I had great rehab resources at University of Memphis. So I'm very thankful that I was there and I could use them. Yeah, shout out to my trainer, Eric. He was awesome. He got me back to where I need to be. And so I did put my name in for the draft, but not playing a whole year, like that's a massive risk that a lot of teams would have to take.
Mm.
Um, so I knew that going into it, but right as that draft was happening, like that's when I was just being able to return to play. So it was good timing because now I was able to look for professional teams to go to, and that's why I chose to go to Iceland. Um, and I'm very happy about that decision. I think it was just a great stepping stone from coming right off of my injury. Not too intense of a league. It's still a really well seen and noticed league, and I feel like I developed a lot under the coaching staff there and the team. It was great, but it was a great step to start my professional career. I'm very happy about it.
I think when we watched you kind of recover from that ACL injury and go off to Iceland, I think it's pretty fair to say that we saw a confident Tanya and kind of how you played, which I think set you up for Sweden. Tell me
Mhm.
about how that came together at the start of 2024.
Yeah. So I only had a 1 year contract in Iceland, so I knew I wasn't going to go back there. And I was looking for like the next challenge, the next step in my career. And the opportunity to go play in Sweden came up, and I was like, yeah, like I've known a lot of girls that have gone to that league, a lot of Canadians actually. So that really excited me, and I know that they either go play from to England from there, like it's another big stepping stone. They go to England or they go to the NWSL. So I was like, yeah, this is a huge opportunity. And Vitwa, my team there, reached out to my agent and said that we're interested in her, and that's how I got to come to Sweden. And it was awesome, let me tell you. It was such a good experience. I'm very happy about it. I signed a contract for 2 years there, but so it was really hard to leave, and the girls there were like my family. Like I took Swedish lessons with one of my teammates there, and we would have dinner at their places. Like it felt like a second home to me. And I lived in a really small town. The team we played, or the team that I played for, had 1,600 people in the village, and the seating at the stadium was 1,800 people. So there was more seats than people that would even come, like that lived in the town. And it was great. Very family oriented, knit community, and so it was really hard to leave. But yeah, I feel like I developed lots as a player and as a person there, and I learned a lot.
Well, you hear some interest from the Roses, and you've kind of settled home away from home, but home is giving you a bit of a ring. How did this whole opportunity come together and everything materialize?
So at the end of my season in Sweden, that's when teams started to reach out from the NSL that hey, like this is actually happening, because like there was so much talk like that nothing was really coming up. Like, is the league still happening? Is everything still going on? And like near the end of my season is when it was like, yeah, this is happening. Like we're interested in her. So I had a couple teams from the NSL that reached out for me. And I was like, no, like I've signed 2 years here. Like I'm committed to stay. Um, like I've had a really good time, and I don't want to leave. Like it's going to be really hard. And but yeah, I talked with my agent. I talked with my family, and being at home and being a part of something brand new is just something so special that being the start and the very first person to do it, like you can't change that for anything. Like you can't compare that for anything. So that's what brought me home.
Tell me about that kind of excitement of being part of history. I think this is like obviously a massive and monumental moment in Canadian soccer, but I also think in women's soccer in general, when you sit back and reflect on that of being part of this huge moment, not only for the city of Montreal, but also Canada as a whole, what are the thoughts that are going through your head?
Yeah, for sure. So it's just so important to have this league in Canada. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like I played in Iceland, and there's 300, just over 300,000 people that live in Iceland, and they have a professional league. And you compare it to Canada, and like we've won the Olympics, we've historically done really well in the Olympics and World Cups, like all this, and there's never been a professional league. So, I mean, this is huge for the country. When I was younger, I didn't even know what it was to be a professional soccer player. Like, I didn't think girls could do that. All I knew is that they could play for their national team because I never got to see it in Canada.
Mm.
So having this league, like girls are going to be able to come and watch our games and understand that like this does exist as it should. So it's super, super special to be a part of.
But what is it with the Roses that kind of sticks out that I guess excites you a little?
Yeah, Montreal's really special. So first with their coaching staff and their technical staff, that got me really excited with Marinette as like the sporting director. I mean, she's a legend in women's football. So having her like lead the pack going forward is very, very exciting. Also, I was ready to come back home, but I'm not sure I was super ready to be back in Alberta just yet. I still wanted to experience different places. So, like, I've been to Iceland, I've been to Sweden, and I'm all about trying new places. That's why I wanted to come to Montreal. It's like I've heard it's like the Europe of Canada is how people talk about it. So, and I've also been to Montreal several times for diving competitions, actually.
Mm.
So, yeah, so I knew a little bit about the city. I have a handful of friends that live there already, so it's like I'm coming into a place that I already know. Which in Iceland and Sweden, like I knew nobody there.
Mm.
So this was huge for me. And I have some family that's in Toronto, which is super close. So having people around me that I already know, like that, I mean, that's already better than anywhere that I've been. And also, I did French immersion when I was younger, up until seventh grade. So I can understand everything in French. So I'm super excited to get back the language. And I mean, I was already doing interviews when I was there in French, which were a little tough,
Hmm.
but I'm excited to get that back and be fluent again. And so, yeah, I just felt like Montreal was the right place for me and just to develop as a person, but also as a player under that coaching staff. Like that was huge for me.
Hmm. Feels like a full circle moment with the city. Usually, we like to end our questions or our interviews with some pretty fun questions, and I feel like it's pretty valid to ask a food-related question because you've been to pretty cool places.
Mhm.
So I'd love to hear what was your favorite dish to eat in Sweden.
hmm So, not necessarily a dish,
Hmm.
but I don't know if you know about fika.
I
Do you know
don't.
anything about fika?
Hmm. Mm-mm. You'll have to
Okay.
help me on that one.
Yeah, so it's this Swedish like lifestyle. I wouldn't even say tradition, it's their lifestyle that every day it's kind of like Mexican siesta where they just all take a break at lunchtime.
Yep.
So in Sweden, every lunch, like in and around lunchtime between like 11 and 2 p.m., they go for fika, which is just they go get coffee with people, get coffee or tea, and then get a pastry. And that's every single day. So like there's like an ongoing joke that like Swedish people don't really work. Like what are their hours if they take 3 hours off in the middle of the day? But they really value to like have something warm within a sweet. So
Mm.
I really took that on and I'm going to definitely continue that.
Continue the tradition in Montreal. I think a lot of people would like that. I might actually start exploring that now in the winter. I feel like going
Yes,
out for a pastry and a warm drink sounds like a pretty good
exactly.
idea. How's your feeling on poutine? There's
Okay,
plenty
I
of that.
like it. I love French fries. I don't know if I've had proper poutine,
Mm.
but I'm really open to it because I love any type of potatoes, like tater tots, French fries, mashed potatoes, anything like that. So I could love it.
Well, you're headed to the right city. They've got plenty of that and they do it well. Tanya,
Yes.
I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to have you here today. And I'm very much excited to see you kick it off with the Montreal Roses and for the NSL to get going. And I'm sure you're probably going to be very busy finding the net left and right, which is going to be very exciting.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.